The night sky above New Mexico was clear and filled with stars. Tae-ho Kim sat alone in the observation station, his eyes fixed on computer screens showing data from deep space. He was tired after working for 12 hours straight, but he couldn't leave yet. The strange signal he had found 6 months ago was back. Just a few more minutes, he told himself, rubbing his eyes. At 28, Tae-ho was one of the youngest astrophysicists at the station. While his friends from college worked in busy cities, he had chosen this remote place. Here, far from bright lights and noise, he could listen to the stars. Tonight they seemed to be saying something new. He took a sip of his cold coffee and typed some commands into his computer. The signal was stronger now. It didn't match any known pattern from his database. "What are you?" he whispered to the screen. Suddenly, all the alarms in the station began to sound at once. Red lights flashed overhead. Tae-ho jumped from his chair and checked the main radar screen. "That's impossible," he said. Something was entering Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed. According to the readings, it should have burned up already, but it didn't. Instead, it changed direction, slowing down in a way that defied physics, and it was heading straight for the observation station. Tae-ho grabbed the phone to call his supervisor, but stopped. Whatever this was, it would land before help could arrive. His heart raced as he watched the object's path on the screen. He should follow protocol, lock down the station, wait for the military. Instead, he grabbed his jacket and a flashlight. "This is why I became a scientist," he told himself, as he stepped outside into the cold night air. To discover the unknown. The object had landed about half a mile from the station. Tae-ho could see a soft blue glow coming from behind a small hill. He walked quickly, his flashlight beam bouncing on the rocky ground. As he got closer, he turned it off. The blue light was enough to see by. When he reached the top of the hill, he stopped and stared. Below him sat a small spacecraft, about the size of a car. It was shaped like a teardrop, with a smooth metallic surface that reflected the starlight. There were no visible engines or windows. The blue glow came from underneath it, making the desert sand look like an ocean floor. "Hello," Tae-ho called out, immediately feeling foolish. Whatever was in there, it wouldn't understand English, or Korean, or any human language. But to his surprise, the side of the craft changed. What had been solid metal a moment ago rippled, like water, and an opening appeared. Light poured out from inside. Tae-ho stood frozen, unable to move as a figure emerged from the ship. It was a woman. At least, she looked mostly like a woman. Her body shape was human, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face with 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. But her skin was a blue-purple color that shimmered in the starlight. Her hair, if it was hair, looked like flowing silver water. She wore a form-fitting suit made of material Tae-ho had never seen before. She was beautiful in a way that seemed impossible. The alien woman looked up the hill directly at him. Her eyes widened. Then, to Tae-ho's complete shock, she smiled. "Tae-ho!" she called out in a clear voice. He almost fell backward. How did she know his name? Before he could think what to do next, the alien woman was running toward him with incredible speed. In seconds, she stood right in front of him, her strange eyes looking into his. They were mostly silver, with flecks of blue that seemed to move like stars. "Tae-ho," she said again, more softly. Then she threw her arms around him in a tight hug. Tae-ho stood stiffly, his arms at his sides, too shocked to move. The alien woman held him for a long moment, then stepped back. She spoke rapidly in a language he couldn't understand. It sounded like water flowing over rocks mixed with musical notes. I don't understand," he said. The woman nodded as if she had expected this. She reached into a small pocket on her suit and pulled out a small silver disc. She touched it, and it expanded into a thin circle about the size of a dinner plate. She held it between them. "This might help," she said, her voice now coming clearly through the device. "I have learned your language, but it seems my pronunciation needs work." "Who are you?" Tae-ho asked. "How do you know my name?" The woman smiled. Again, "I am Nari, And I know your name because you sent it to me along with your proposal. Proposal? Teho repeated. What proposal? Nari looked confused. Your marriage proposal. 6 months ago, you sent the sacred sequence across the stars. I received it and have come to accept. Teho felt like his brain had stopped working. Marriage? I didn't. Husband Teho, Nari said formally, bowing her head slightly. I have traveled across 17 star systems to claim you as is my right. Our union was foretold. Teho's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. 6 months ago, he had been working on a new communication method. He had sent various signal patterns into space, but he hadn't been proposing marriage to anyone, let alone an alien woman. Before he could explain, the sound of engines filled the air. Bright lights appeared on the desert road, multiple vehicles approaching fast. Government, Teho said. They must have detected your ship. Nari's face changed to an expression of alarm. We must go. It is too soon for wide contact. She grabbed his hand. Her skin felt warm and slightly electric. Come, husband. Wait, I'm not your husband. This is a misunderstanding. But Nari wasn't listening. She pulled out another small device and pressed it against his arm. Hold still. Transport is uncomfortable the first time. Transport? What are you talking about? I can't leave. I need to explain to you that... The world around him suddenly turned to light. Teho felt his body pulling apart, then coming back together in a different place. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. When his vision cleared, he found himself inside the alien craft. The walls glowed with soft blue light. There were no sharp angles anywhere. Everything curved smoothly into everything else. Nari knelt beside him. It passes quickly, she said, putting a hand on his back. Teho looked up at her. You can't just take me, that's kidnapping. I did not take you, she said calmly. I brought my husband home. I am not your husband. Teho tried to stand, but his legs felt weak. Nari helped him to a seat that formed itself from the wall. The confusion is understandable. Your people are not yet part of the galactic community. You don't know our ways. The ship hummed to life around them. Through a window that appeared in the wall, Teho saw the ground moving away. They were taking off. Wait, he shouted. I need to go back. I have a life here, a job. People will look for me, and they will find you, Nari said with a gentle smile, when the time is right. After our joining ceremony. Teho stared at her in disbelief as Earth grew smaller below them. His entire world was literally disappearing before his eyes. What have I done? He whispered. Nari looked at him with genuine concern. You have started something beautiful, husband. Something that will change not just your life, but the future of both our peoples. The ship accelerated, and Earth became just another blue dot in the blackness of space. Teho pressed his face against the window as Earth became nothing more than a small blue dot in the darkness. His stomach felt tight. His homeworld, everything he had ever known, was disappearing before his eyes. Please, he said to Nari, you have to take me back. Nari touched his shoulder gently. Do not worry. This is not a final goodbye to your world. Before Teho could respond, the ship jerked suddenly. A much larger vessel appeared in front of them. It was at least 100 times bigger than Nari's small craft and shaped like a giant silver leaf. The surface shimmered with the same blue-purple color as Nari's skin. The mothership, Nari explained. My home. A beam of light from the larger ship pulled them in. Teho felt his body become lighter as Nari's small ship was drawn into a vast docking bay. When they landed, the walls of the small craft melted away, leaving them standing in an enormous room filled with similar teardrop-shaped ships. Come, Nari said, taking his hand. My sibling is waiting. Teho followed her across the docking bay. Other beings like Nari moved around them, some stopping to stare at him with curious silver eyes. They all had the same shimmering skin, though in slightly different colors. Some had darker blue, others more purple. Their silver hair floated around their heads as if they were underwater. "What are you?" Teho asked. "What is your species called?" "We call ourselves the Elysians," Nari said. "We are travelers and explorers." They reached a doorway that opened without being touched. Beyond it was a room with curved walls and floating screens. A tall Elysian stood looking at one of these screens. This one had darker skin than Nari, more purple than blue. When they turned, around Teho saw their face was more angular than Nari's with sharper cheekbones. "Hansol," Nari said. "This is Teho." Hansol studied Teho with narrowed eyes. "The human," they said through a translation device similar to Nari's. "You are smaller than I expected." "Hansol is the pilot of our mothership," Nari explained. "And my sibling." "I still think this is unwise," Hansol said to Nari. "The humans are not ready for contact. They are too primitive." "Excuse me," Teho said, finding his voice. "I'm standing right here, and I'm not primitive." Hansol made a sound like water bubbling. Teho realized it was laughter. "You use fossil fuels. You fight wars over resources that the universe has in abundance. Your technology is barely past the digital age," Hansol said. "By our standards, you are very primitive." Teho felt his face get hot. "We've been to our moon. We've sent robots to Mars. We're learning more every day." "Yes," Nari said quickly. "That is why Teho is special. His signal showed advanced thinking, and his genetic pattern is compatible with ours." "Wait, what?" Teho turned to her. "My genetic pattern? How would you know about that?" Nari smiled. "The proposal sequence you sent contained your biological information. It is how we determine compatibility for marriage." Teho shook his head. "I didn't send any biological information. I was testing a new communication method using radio waves." "Hansol." And Nari exchanged looks. "Show him," Hansol said. Nari nodded and touched one of the floating screens. It changed to show a series of wave patterns, exactly like the ones Teho had sent into space 6 months ago as part of his research. "This is the sacred sequence," Nari explained. "In our culture, it is the formal proposal of marriage. It contains the sender's genetic code, personal information, and a request for union." "But I didn't know that," Teho said. "I was just sending test signals. How could they contain my genetic code?" "Your radio waves passed through your body before being amplified by your equipment," Hansol said. "They carried traces of your DNA. Our technology is sensitive enough to read this information." Teho sat down on a chair that formed itself from the floor. "This is a huge misunderstanding," he said. "On Earth, marriage requires both people to agree knowingly. You can't be married to someone by accident. Among the Elysians, the sequence is sacred," Nari said softly. "Once sent, it cannot be taken back without severe consequences." "What consequences?" Teho asked. Hansol's face became serious. "In ancient times, to reject the sequence after sending it was seen as the highest insult. It led to blood feuds between families. Today it would be seen as a grave diplomatic incident." Teho felt a chill. "Are you saying if I don't marry Nari it could cause problems between our worlds?" "It could lead to war," Hansol said bluntly. "Hansol," Nari said sharply. "Do not frighten him." But Teho was already frightened. He had accidentally proposed marriage to an alien, and now faced the possibility that refusing could lead to war with a species clearly far more advanced than humans. "There must be a way to fix this," he said. "There is more you should know," Nari said, sitting beside him. "Our people are facing challenges. Our population is declining because we have become too similar genetically. We need new DNA to strengthen our species." "So this is about breeding?" Teho asked, feeling his face grow hot again. "It is about survival," Hansol corrected. "Your species has remarkable genetic diversity, and your specific genetic pattern is unusually compatible with Nari's." Teho looked at Nari. Under different circumstances, he might have found her beautiful. But this was all happening too fast. "I need time to think," he said. Of course, Nari said. I will show you to your quarters. As they left the room, Han Sol called after them. The joining ceremony must happen within 7 days according to tradition. 7 days? Taeho repeated as they walked down a curved hallway. That's not enough time. I am sorry, Nari said, but there is another problem. Your Earth governments have noticed your absence. They believe I have kidnapped you. She touched another screen on the wall. It showed images from Earth, news reports about an alien abduction at the New Mexico observation station. Taeho saw his own face on the screen. They're looking for me, he said. Yes. And some are suggesting military action against us. Taeho felt sick. This is getting worse by the minute. There is one piece of good news, Nari said. We have located someone who may help, a friend of yours. The screen changed to show a familiar face. Jin, Taeho's childhood friend who now worked for the government's Space Research Division. Jin, how can he help? He understands both cultures, Nari explained. He has been studying ancient cave paintings that show our previous visits to Earth. He knows we are not hostile. You've been to Earth before? Many times, over thousands of years. We helped some of your ancestors. They recorded our visits in their art. Taeho's mind was spinning with all this new information. Aliens had visited Earth throughout history. He had accidentally proposed marriage to one of them. And now he had 7 days to either go through with the marriage or risk starting an interstellar war. Can I talk to Jin? He asked. Tomorrow, Nari said. For now, you need rest. She led him to a room that adjusted its lighting and temperature as they entered. A bed formed from the floor, shaped perfectly for a human body. I will leave you to sleep, Nari said. Tomorrow we will speak. More. As she turned to leave, Taeho called after her. Nari, if I had known what that signal meant, I wouldn't have sent it. She paused at the doorway. I know, but perhaps the stars had their own plan for us. After she left, Taeho lay on the bed, looking out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, where everyone thought he had been kidnapped. In a way, they were right. What could he do now? Refuse the marriage and risk war? Go through with it to save both their species? Or was there another way out that he hadn't thought of yet? He closed his eyes, exhausted but far from sleep. Morning came quickly on the Elysian ship. Taeho had barely slept, his mind racing with thoughts of Earth, the strange situation he was in, and what might happen next. He was looking at the stars when Nari entered his room. Did you rest well? She asked. Not really, Taeho admitted. It's hard to sleep when you've just found out you accidentally proposed marriage to an alien. Nari smiled. Today you will speak with your friend Jin. But first, there is someone else you must meet. She led him through winding hallways that seemed to shift and change as they walked. They passed other Elysians who stared at Taeho with curious silver eyes. Some looked excited to see him, others wary. They entered a large room with a high ceiling that showed the stars above. In the center stood an elderly Elysian. Her skin was darker blue than the others, almost midnight in color. Her silver hair fell to the floor in long waves. When she turned to look at Taeho, her eyes were pure white, like moonlight. This is Yuna, Nari said with deep respect in her voice. She is our eldest and our spiritual leader. Yuna approached Taeho slowly. She did not use a translation device but placed her hand gently on his forehead. Immediately he could hear her voice in his mind. The Star Walker, she said. The one from the blue world. I'm Taeho, he replied aloud, feeling strange talking to someone who was speaking inside his head. I know who you are, Yuna's voice echoed in his thoughts. Your signal has been expected for many cycles. Expected? Taeho asked, confused. What do you mean? Yuna removed her hand and took a small device from a nearby table. Unlike the other technology Taeho had seen, this looked old and worn. When she activated it, a hologram appeared in the air. Strange symbols and star maps floated before them. Our oldest prophecy, Nari explained. It speaks of a union between stars that will save our people. And you think that's me? Tai-Ho asked. Yuna nodded slowly. The timing of your signal, the unique pattern of your genetic code, these are not accidents. Tai-Ho felt uncomfortable. He didn't believe in prophecies. He was a scientist who believed in facts and evidence. With respect, he said carefully, I think this is still a misunderstanding. I didn't intend to send any marriage proposal. Intention is not always necessary for destiny, Yuna said through the translator she now held. The stars have brought you to us. Before Tai-Ho could argue further, Han Sol entered the room quickly. The communication link with Earth is ready, they announced. The human Jin wishes to speak with Tai-Ho. They moved to another room where a large screen showed Jin's face. He looked tired and worried. Tai-Ho, are you all right? Are they treating you well? Jin asked immediately. I'm fine, Tai-Ho assured him. No one has hurt me, but I'm in a difficult situation. Quickly, Tai-Ho explained everything he had learned. The accidental proposal, the Elysian marriage customs and their belief in a prophecy. Jin nodded slowly. That matches what I've discovered here. I've been studying ancient cave paintings in Korea that show beings exactly like your Elysians. Some of the paintings are over 10,000 years old. So they really have visited Earth before, Tai-Ho said. Many times. And there are texts that mention star people who would one day return when the signal is sent from Earth. I never understood what that meant until now. Jin's face grew serious. But there's another problem. The military is preparing to launch an attack on the Elysian ship. They think you've been kidnapped. An attack? Tai-Ho felt a chill. That would be suicide. The Elysians are far more advanced than we are. I know. I've been trying to convince General Daesung that this is a peaceful contact, but he's not listening. He's given me 48 hours to find proof you're safe, or they'll launch missiles. Tai-Ho looked at Nari and Han Sol, who had been listening closely. Can your shield stop Earth missiles? Easily, Han Sol said. But if your people attack us, the Council may see it as an act of war. We must avoid conflict, Nari said firmly. Jin nodded on the screen. If we can prove this is all a cultural misunderstanding, maybe the general will back down. But I need time. Time is something we don't have, Tai-Ho said. According to Elysian tradition, the marriage must happen within 7 days of my arrival. That gives us only 5 days left. Jin looked thoughtful. There might be another way. In the ancient texts, there's mention of something called the ambassador bond. It was an alternative to marriage between different peoples. Nari and Han Sol exchanged looks. That hasn't been used in 10,000 years, Han Sol said. But it is still valid under our laws, Nari added. Tai-Ho felt a small spark of hope. What is this ambassador bond? It's a formal diplomatic tie instead of a personal marriage, Nari explained. But it would require approval from our highest council. And from Earth's leaders, Jin added. Tai-Ho thought quickly. Jin, can you arrange a direct communication with General Daesung? If I can explain the situation myself, maybe he'll understand. I'll try, Jin promised. But the general is suspicious of anything to do with the Elysians. After Jin signed off, Tai-Ho turned to Nari. Will you take me to your council? I want to propose this ambassador bond idea to them. Nari looked uncertain. They rarely meet with outsiders. But if they don't, we might face war between our worlds, Tai-Ho argued. Surely that's worth breaking tradition for. Before Nari could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Han Sol rushed to check a nearby screen. Earth vessels are approaching, they announced. 5 military ships armed with missiles. They've moved up their timeline, Tai-Ho said with growing fear. Can we contact them? We're trying, Han Sol said, but they're not responding to our signals. Yuna, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Bring the human to the Great Council. Now. Nari grabbed Tai-Ho's hand and led him quickly through the ship. They entered a large chamber where 7 elderly Elysians sat in a semicircle. They all had the same midnight blue skin as Yuna. Great ones, Nari said with a deep bow. This is Tai-Ho of Earth. He wishes to propose an ambassador bond in place of marriage. The center figure, an Elysian with eyes like swirling galaxies, spoke. Does he understand what this means? No, Teho admitted honestly. But I understand that without some solution, our worlds may go to war, and that's something I want to prevent at all costs. The council members looked at each other, communicating silently. The ambassador bond is ancient, the center figure finally said. It requires the chosen one to be marked with the star touch. This mark cannot be removed. You would be bound to our people forever, acting as bridge between worlds. Would it satisfy your traditions without me having to personally marry Nari? Teho asked. It would, but once marked, you could never truly return to being only human. Part of you would always belong to the stars. Teho thought about his life on Earth, his small apartment, his job at the observation station. He had always looked to the stars, wondering what was out there. Now he knew. If it will prevent war and help both our peoples, I'm willing to accept this mark, he said firmly. The council began to discuss among themselves when another alarm blared. Hansol rushed in. The Earth vessels have launched missiles, they reported urgently. They will reach us in 10 minutes. Teho felt panic rise in his chest. Can you contact General Dae-sung? Let me speak to him. We're trying, Hansol said. Our systems are being jammed. We have no choice but to raise our shields, another Elysian said. If the missiles hit our shields, they will be redirected back to Earth. No, Teho cried. There must be another way. Those ships have people on them. My people. He turned to Nari desperately. Help me stop this, please. I'll accept the marriage, the ambassador bond, whatever you want. Just don't let anyone die because of a misunderstanding. Nari looked at him with deep sadness in her silver eyes. I never wanted this to lead to conflict. I came seeking unity, not war. She turned to the council. Great ones, I ask permission to use the voice of stars. The council members looked shocked. The center figure spoke slowly. The voice of stars has not been used for a millennium. Its power is unpredictable. It's our only hope, Nari insisted. After a tense moment, the council leader nodded. Permission, granted. May the stars guide your voice. Nari took Teho's hand. Come with me. We may have one chance to stop this war before it begins. Teho stood at the window of the great hall on the Elysian mothership. Below him, Earth looked like a blue marble. In just 3 days, he had gone from being an ordinary scientist to a man caught between two worlds. Now, everything depended on what he did next. Are you ready? Nari asked, coming to stand beside him. No, Teho said honestly, but I have to try. The past 2 days had been filled with frantic planning. After learning about the Elysian culture from Yuna and speaking with Jin through the ship's communication system, Teho had found a possible solution. It wasn't perfect, but it might save both their worlds from conflict. The Earth ships are approaching, Hansol announced from across the room. 5 vessels, heavily armed. They're coming to rescue me, Teho said. Or at least that's what they think they're doing. On one of the floating screens, Teho could see Jin speaking with General Dae-sung. Jin was trying to explain Teho's plan, but the military leader looked skeptical. Can you put me through to them? Teho asked. Hansol nodded and touched a control. A beam of light surrounded Teho. This will project your image to their ships, Nari explained. Teho took a deep breath and began speaking. General Dae-sung, this is Teho Kim. I am safe and here by choice. The Elysians are not hostile. The general's face appeared on a screen. Kim, are you being forced to say this? No, sir. I'm free to speak. What's happening is a cultural misunderstanding, not a kidnapping. The signal I sent 6 months ago was interpreted as a marriage proposal in Elysian culture. A marriage proposal? The general looked confused. Yes, and refusing it now could cause serious problems. But I have a solution that could benefit both our worlds. Teho looked at Nari, who nodded encouragingly. Instead of me personally marrying Nari, I propose a symbolic union between Earth and Elysia, with me as Earth's representative. There was silence for a moment. Explain, the general finally said. The Elysians need genetic diversity to survive as a species. They've been studying Earth for thousands of years, waiting for us to reach a level where communication was possible. My signal, by pure chance, matched their sacred marriage ritual. And you expect us to believe this? Sir, Jin has found evidence of their previous visits in ancient cave paintings. And more importantly, the Elysians possess technology that could solve many of Earth's biggest problems: clean energy, medical advances, environmental restoration. Jin stepped forward beside the general. He's right, sir. I've been studying the patterns for years. The cave paintings match exactly with the beings on that ship. The general frowned. So what exactly are you proposing, Kim? A diplomatic ceremony instead of a personal marriage. A formal alliance between our worlds. The first step toward Earth joining the galactic community. As they talked, Yuna entered the Great Hall with other Elysian elders. They watched the exchange with interest. And the Elysians agree to this? The general asked. Taeho turned to Yuna. Do you? Will a symbolic union between our worlds satisfy your traditions without me personally marrying Nari? Yuna stepped forward. Her ancient eyes studied Taeho for a long moment. The prophecy speaks of a union between stars that will save our people. Perhaps this is what it meant all along. Not a marriage between two individuals, but between two worlds. She placed her hand on a glowing orb and spoke in the musical Elysian language. The orb projected ancient symbols into the air. This is their most sacred text, Nari translated for Taeho. It says, "When the children of Earth reach for the stars, they will join hands with the star children and both shall find new life." Yuna nodded. We accept your proposal, Taeho of Earth. A symbolic union will satisfy our traditions. Taeho felt relief wash over him. He turned back to the screen where the general was waiting. Sir, this could be humanity's greatest opportunity. A peaceful first contact with an advanced civilization willing to share their knowledge with us. After a long moment, the general nodded. Stand down weapons, he ordered someone off screen. We'll approach for peaceful contact. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Earth ships docked with the Elysian mothership. Diplomats and scientists came aboard, looking around in wonder at the advanced technology. Jin hugged Taeho tightly when they finally met face to face. You've made history, Jin told him. The first human to arrange an interstellar alliance. I just didn't want to get married to someone I barely knew, Taeho said with a small smile. The ceremony was set for the following day. Taeho worked with both human and Elysian representatives to design a ritual that would respect both cultures. He would represent Earth while Nari represented Elysia. But as the preparations continued, Hansol noticed something strange. Some of our people are missing, they told Taeho privately, a small group led by Moon who has always opposed contact with other species. Could they be planning something? Taeho asked, suddenly worried. I fear so. Moon believes our genetic problems should be solved by our own science, not by mixing with lesser species as he calls them. Taeho didn't like the sound of that. We need to warn security, but it was too late. As the ceremony began the next day, with representatives from both worlds gathered in the Great Hall, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The main engine core is overheating, Hansol announced, checking the floating screens. If it explodes, it will destroy both the mothership and the Earth vessels. Moon, Nari said grimly. This is his doing. General Daisung immediately grew suspicious. Is this a trap? No, Taeho said firmly. It's sabotage from within, a small group who don't want this alliance to happen. Yuna looked grave. The engine room is sealed. Our people cannot reach it in time. Taeho thought quickly. His mind raced through what he had learned about Elysian technology over the past few days. The coolant system, he said suddenly. It uses a frequency-based activation, doesn't it? Hansol nodded. Yes, but the controls are locked. We don't need the controls. On Earth, I worked with radio frequencies. If you can get me close enough to the engine room, I might be able to generate the right frequency to activate the emergency cooling system manually. It's too dangerous, Nari protested. We don't have a choice, Taeho said. Both our peoples will die if that engine explodes. With no time to argue, Han Sol led Taiho through the ship to a maintenance tunnel near the engine room. The walls were already hot to the touch. The frequency must be exact, Han Sol warned. Too low or too high and nothing will happen. Taiho nodded. He took equipment from his pocket that he had brought from Earth, a small frequency generator he always carried for his work. With trembling hands, he calculated what was needed and adjusted the settings. "Here goes nothing," he whispered, and activated the device. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, a low hum began to build. Through a small window, Taiho could see blue coolant flooding into the engine core. The temperature readings on Han Sol's screen began to drop. "It's working," Han Sol said in amazement. "How did you know the exact frequency?" "I didn't," Taiho admitted. "But I noticed a pattern in your ship's systems. They all operate on mathematical principles similar to ones we use on Earth. The universe speaks the same language of numbers, no matter where you're from." When they returned to the Great Hall, security had captured Mun and his followers. The danger was over. Yuna approached Taiho with newfound respect in her ancient eyes. "You saved both our peoples today. Truly, the prophecy was right." The ceremony resumed. This time, when Taiho and Nari joined hands to symbolize the union of their worlds, the gesture felt truly meaningful. "By the ancient laws of the stars, I declare Earth and Elysia joined in alliance," Yuna announced. "And I grant Taiho Kim the status of Star-Touched, the highest honor for a non-Elysian." Taiho felt a warm glow spread through his body as Yuna placed a small silver star on his forehead. It sank into his skin, leaving a faint mark. "What does this mean?" he asked. "It means you belong to both worlds now," Nari explained. "You can live among the stars with us, or return to Earth as our ambassador. The choice is yours." Taiho looked around at the faces of both humans and Elysians. 6 days ago, he had been alone in an observation station. Now he stood at the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. "I choose both," he said. "Earth will always be my home. But the stars are calling too." As the Earth and Elysian ships departed side by side, Taiho knew his life would never be the same. And somewhere in the vast universe, the stars that had brought this unlikely union together continued to shine, waiting for humanity's next step into the cosmos.